sister-in-law tried to sabotage my wedding. I'll ruin your big day. I replaced her dress last minute with a rainbow clown suit. Everyone saw it live on social media. I'll start by saying that weddings bring out the best and worst in people. Unfortunately for me, my fiancée Naomi's younger sister, Paloma, was 100% in the worst category. Paloma has always been the kind of person who thrives on attention and drama. If she isn't the center of the universe, she'll make herself the center. From the moment Naomi and I got engaged, I had this nagging feeling Paloma would stir up trouble. I just didn't know how far she'd go. Naomi and I have been together for 6 years. I proposed last summer in a quiet park near Lake Michigan. It was perfect, just the two of us, no theatrics, no audience. Naomi cried, said yes, and we started planning what we hoped would be a small but beautiful wedding. Paloma, of course, had other ideas. It started small. Every family has that one person who always has an opinion about everything. In Naomi's family, it's Paloma. She had something to say about the date, the venue, the colors, the guest list, and even the food. At first, I thought it was just her being her usual self, annoying but harmless. But as the weeks passed, her comments got nastier. "Why are you having it there?" she asked when we booked a lovely old church in Kalamazoo. "It's so cheap. Don't you want something classy?" Naomi tried to laugh it off. "It's not cheap," she said. "It's historic." Paloma rolled her eyes. Historic is just another word for old. It didn't stop there. When Naomi chose blush pink dresses for her bridesmaids, Paloma acted like we'd asked her to wear a garbage bag. "This color makes me look washed out," she complained. "Don't you care how I feel?" Naomi, bless her, is a peacemaker by nature. She kept saying, "Paloma doesn't mean any harm. She just has strong opinions." I wasn't so sure. It felt like Paloma was testing boundaries, pushing to see how much she could get away with. And as we got closer to the wedding, her behavior got worse. 2 weeks before the wedding, we hosted a planning dinner at our house. It was supposed to be a final check-in for everyone involved in the big day. Naomi's parents, her bridesmaids, my groomsmen, all there to make sure we were on track. Paloma showed up late, as usual. But this time, she was visibly drunk. She brought her own margaritas in a thermos and started drinking as soon as she walked in the door. Halfway through dinner, she started making snide comments. "This whole thing is so basic," she said, swirling her margarita dramatically. "Naomi, you could do so much better." "No offense, Rusty." "None taken," I lied. My patience was wearing thin. Naomi tried to steer the conversation back on track, but Paloma wasn't done. She leaned back in her chair, smirking, and said, "You know, I could ruin this wedding if I wanted to." The room went silent. Naomi looked horrified. "Paloma, that's not funny." "Oh, come on," Paloma said. "It's a joke." It didn't feel like a joke. The way she said it, so casually, sent a chill down my spine. I knew she wasn't kidding. She was warning us. A week later, Paloma crossed the line. Naomi got a call from the bridal shop. Paloma had gone in and tried to switch her blush pink dress for a white one. A white dress. When Naomi confronted her, Paloma shrugged and said, "It's not a big deal. I just think white looks better on me." Naomi was furious. For the first time, she stopped making excuses for Paloma. "This is our wedding," she told her. "Not yours. You don't get to make decisions like this." Paloma didn't apologize. She didn't even pretend to feel bad. She just laughed and said, "Relax, Naomi. It's not like anyone's going to think I'm the bride." That was the moment I decided enough was enough. If Paloma wanted to play games, I could play, too. I called my cousin Jed, who owns a costume shop downtown. Jed's the kind of guy who knows how to keep a secret, and he loves a good prank. I told him what I needed, and he delivered, a rainbow clown suit, complete with oversized shoes, a big red nose, and a curly wig. The night before the wedding, while Naomi was at her parents' house, I swapped Paloma's dress with the clown suit. I left a note on the hanger, "Naomi thought this would suit you better." The next morning, chaos erupted. I wasn't at the bridal house, but Naomi's cousin was live-streaming the whole morning on Instagram. According to the stream, and later, Naomi, Paloma lost her mind when she saw the clown suit. She screamed at everyone, accusing them of sabotaging her. When Naomi saw the suit, she burst into tears, thinking it was some kind of cruel joke. I had to text her quickly to explain everything. "I swapped it," I wrote. "Paloma tried to sabotage the wedding, so I sabotaged her first." Naomi didn't reply for 10 minutes. I was sweating bullets. Then, finally, my phone buzzed. She'd sent me one word, "Wow." Paloma tried to find her original dress, but it was too late. She had no choice but to wear the clown suit, or miss the wedding entirely. She showed up 20 minutes late, still in the clown suit, and stormed down the aisle, fuming. I'll never forget the looks on the guests' faces. Some people gasped. Others tried to hold in laughter. Naomi's cousin was still live streaming, so the whole thing was broadcast to her followers. And that's where I'll leave it for now. Let's just say things got even more dramatic as the day went on. Paloma walked into the church, her oversized clown shoes squeaking with every step, her face a mask of pure rage. The rainbow-colored suit puffed out ridiculously around her, and the giant red nose she hadn't had time to remove sat crookedly on her face. The guests were stunned into silence for about 5 seconds, then the snickering started. At first, it was just a couple of whispers and muffled laughs. But as Paloma marched down the aisle to her seat, the whispers turned into full-blown laughter. People tried to hide it behind programs or hands, but it was no use. Even Naomi's dad, the most stoic man I've ever met, had to cover his mouth to stifle a chuckle. Naomi, standing beside me at the altar, turned to look at Paloma as she sat down with a huff. For a second, I thought Naomi was going to lose it. But then she turned back to me, and I could see it in her eyes. She was fighting hard to keep her composure. I leaned in and whispered, "You okay?" She bit her lip, her shoulders shaking slightly. "I can't believe you did this," she whispered back, and I could tell she was trying not to laugh. I grinned. She asked for it. The ceremony went on without a hitch after that. Paloma stayed quiet, probably too embarrassed to draw more attention to herself. Every so often, I'd catch her glaring at me from her seat, but what could she do? She couldn't exactly stomp out of the church dressed like that without making things even more dramatic. When the ceremony ended and the guests moved to the reception hall, Paloma tried to slink away. But of course, everyone wanted pictures. People were snapping photos left and right, and Naomi's cousin, still live streaming, zoomed in on Paloma as she tried to avoid the camera. "Don't you just love a colorful wedding?" she said, clearly egging her on. Paloma finally snapped. She grabbed the phone out of her cousin's hands and yelled, "This isn't funny." But it was too late. The live stream had already gone viral, and people in the comments were calling her Clownzilla. Naomi's cousin just shrugged and grabbed her phone back, saying, "You're the one who wanted to ruin the wedding. Guess you got what you wanted." At the reception, Paloma tried to disappear into the crowd, but no one would let her forget the clown suit. Every few minutes, someone would come up and ask her, "Where's your balloon animals?" or "Can you do a trick for us?" Even Naomi's grandma, who's usually oblivious to drama, walked up to Paloma and said, "You look so festive, dear." Meanwhile, Naomi and I were having the time of our lives. The DJ announced us as Mr. and Mrs. Halvorsen for the first time, and we had our first dance while the guests clapped and cheered. Every time I glanced at Paloma sitting in the corner, I felt a small thrill of satisfaction. She tried to steal Naomi's spotlight, but now she was a punchline. But the best part came during the speeches. My best man, Kyle, had been waiting for this moment all night. When he got up to give his toast, he grinned and said, "You know, Rusty and Naomi's love is like a circus. It's full of surprises, a little chaotic at times, but in the end, it's the greatest show on earth." And speaking of circuses, let's give a round of applause for Paloma, the star clown of tonight's performance. The room erupted in laughter and applause. Paloma turned bright red, but she couldn't leave without making an even bigger scene. She stayed in her seat, fuming, while the rest of the night went on as planned. By the end of the night, Paloma couldn't take it anymore. She stormed up to Naomi and me as we were saying goodbye to guests. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You'll regret this." Naomi, who had been biting her tongue all day, finally let loose. "No, Paloma. You're the one who should regret this. You've been nothing but selfish and cruel since we got engaged, and you brought this on yourself. If you can't handle the consequences of your actions, that's on you." I was so proud of her in that moment. Paloma stood there, stunned, before stomping off into the night. Her clown shoes squeaked with every step. In the days that followed, the live stream gained millions of views. People from all over the country were laughing at Clownzilla. Paloma tried to play it off, saying it was just a joke, but no one believed her. For once, the attention she craved wasn't the kind she wanted. As for Naomi and me, we had the perfect honeymoon in Hawaii and came back to endless stories from our guests about how it was the most memorable wedding they'd ever attended. Paloma's antics became a running joke in our family, and every so often, someone would say, "Remember the clown suit?" and we'd all burst out laughing. Paloma eventually stopped coming around as much. Maybe she was embarrassed, or maybe she realized she couldn't control the narrative anymore. Either way, Naomi and I haven't lost a wink of sleep over it. So that's the story of how my sister-in-law tried to ruin our wedding, and I made sure she was the one left humiliated. Do I feel bad? Not one bit. She wanted to turn our wedding into a circus, and I made sure she played the perfect role. And you know what? Sometimes, the best revenge really is served with a big red nose and a pair of squeaky shoes.